Okay, so we talk a lot in our industry about a fully integrated approach, right? And a fully integrated approach for a customer's perspective and a fully integrated approach from your perspective oftentimes are two different things. So fully integrated approach from your perspective usually means what? All of my products. And a fully integrated approach from the customer's perspective means what? All of my media, all of my stuff. So billboards, radio, TV, social, pay-per-click, a lot of different things. So I'm going to walk you through just some talk tracks here to think about how your customer hears what you're trying to share with them, and not necessarily in a product approach, not necessarily in a message approach, but a situational approach. So thinking about the mindset of a consumer when they're an active intender, when they're in the research model, the information model, or when they're impulsive to respond. So let's kind of walk through what we typically see. So first and foremost, we've actually talked about this a lot throughout the last few days, whether it's breakout sessions or just small chat. What's digital, right? There's a lot of different executions that are within that digital arena. What I would encourage you to think about is let's just maybe stop saying the word digital and just say the world we live in. Like everything we do is digital. It's just part of what we do at this point. Fully integrated approaches mean lanes of people wherever they are. And there's a lot of ways to go find them. So, but what do they typically think of as digital? It's usually pay-per-click, or some form of a third-party lead gen product. You've seen a lot of these logos over the last few days. Lead sourcing, right? And most of it has to do with that now factor. But we have to understand that the customer's journey to purchase can begin in a number of different areas. And those number of different areas can also be in a number of different mindsets. What motivated that purchase? So let's start with intent as a whole. When we look at intent, which is usually that now factor, bottom funnel, if we can help your customer understand a proper strategy along with the appropriate message, we can see increased profits. So this is typically what they're looking at for the now factor intent products, search, listings. They're looking at quick conversions. They're matching their data. You've heard a lot of the speakers talk about matching their data lines. Where did the lead come from? So things that are rather important to them. We talk about maps and reputation and reviews. Very important aspects of the intent to purchase process.
Thank you. The new phone book's here! The new phone book's here!
Well, I wish I could get that excited about
Nothing! Are you kidding? Page 73! Johnson, Navin, R. I'm somebody now! Millions of people look at this book every day! This is the kind of spontaneous publicity, your name in print, that makes people! I'm in print! Things are going to start happening to me now.
All right, so think of your customers and they tell you, you know what, we're doing pay-per-click, we're good, but we're just good. How is it that different than 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago when they said, we're in the phone book, we're good, I'm gonna be just fine. I had a really interesting conversation last week out west with a high-end furniture store. And they said, you know, one of our number one lead source strategies is pay-per-click. And I said, well, walk me through that. What do you mean by that? And they said, well, that's where we're spending most of our money. I'm like, okay. A little different than that's your number one lead source, but continue. He said, well, our average ticket's around $4,000. Like, okay. And how is that translating with your approach to the market when the average ticket on some of your major competitors is closer to that $1,000 range? Like, interesting. So when we think about the approach of how we buy and what's the immediate opportunity for that active intender, if you're looking for custom design because this high-end furniture store was not a buy the sofa today, take it home tonight, it was a design center. Pick out your fabrics, pick out your features, and in 9 to 12 weeks, you'll get your sofa. Does that make a lot of sense to do that right now factor going after furniture intenders? Their keywords were really, really wrong. They were in a furniture sector. They weren't in a design, custom design sector. So we have to be really, really careful when we just hear them say, yeah, I'm already doing it. What if they're not doing it right? So think about a couple of the different media entities that have to do with intent to purchase, and then more of that targeted intent approach. So we always hear search, listings, shopping, lead aggregators. We can also look at the targeted aspect of what they're truly doing, the behavior side, right? So social, display, video, targeted email, OTT platforms. So when you think of the large ticket purchases, it tends to be a longer cycle, and there's more research and review that's involved. So again, that fully integrated approach, have a little bit of a deeper dialogue to help them understand what's possible and what's available for them. Your creative elements can substantially change the outcome and the margin. All right, so let's slide into the inform sector of fully integrated approaches.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, passed the, anyone? The tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics.
So when you start to talk about some of the executions that we can use in products, do you ever get some of those looks? Gone. I have no idea what you mean. Information and targeting and information comes down to creative. What are you trying to accomplish? There's a lot of changes that are happening right now, and really just in the last few weeks. We all know what Facebook has done as far as changing their newsfeed algorithms for publishers. I also want to point out a few things that are rather important when you look at web browsers. I want to give you some relevant, up-to-date data here. US browser share is roughly 50% Chrome and roughly 31% Safari. Now, why is that important? What's Apple up to right now with the user experience? I know a lot of you sell retargeting. Apple doesn't like it. They're making some changes to their browsers. Now, what's more important? Mobile share. You've heard a lot of talk today about the migration to everything being fully mobile. Everyone's doing everything on mobile devices. Safari has a 51 share on mobile devices. So when you think about going after a consumer that looks like an active intender with retargeted ads, and half of those consumers are on Apple devices, what are we doing? We talk a lot about content. Content is king. One of the best examples, I always look up to kind of see what examples we can go with, but I'm going to use one that was brought up yesterday for Gerhardt's, their Facebook example. That's great content. Is anyone actively looking for what they were doing? No, they put together a fun content play, posted it on Facebook, and then boosted it. And it got a lot of views, and it was fun. And it was all about getting activity into their store on their once-a-month events. And the people that came into that store were probably somewhere in that research phase, maybe curious, and they were intrigued by the bathtub feature. So help your customers understand what is informational marketing. What does the creative look like for informational marketing, and what can it do? And now we can talk about what products make sense for informational marketing. A lot of you have native content platforms, of course, social platforms. Now we're in the contextual side of targeting, display, video, and obviously targeted email campaigns. So you get a little bit more differentiation with this approach. You get a little bit more consent from the consumer as they're curious and interested in the information that you have to share. You're not just chasing them, right? And they're more aware to the opportunities that they're researching. All right, so let's finish this off with the impulse side. Now, I talk about this a lot in meetings with traditional businesses, and when we say impulsive messaging, it doesn't mean like the ShamWow or the MyPillow or the Flex Seal products, which we are very familiar with. Who has a MyPillow? I'm just curious. Did you need a new pillow, or was it just that point where you're going, yeah, I do sleep bad. I guess I could use a new one. That does sound better. Whoa, that's a good deal. And I get another one right now? You get another one for the last 7 straight years in every single media platform that they use. So what we're looking at impulse is it's a consumer with a situation that maybe doesn't have any current intent. Were you actively shopping for a MyPillow? This morning, you heard about stem cell, and they said they had some challenges with pay-per-click. Is anyone actively searching for stem cell therapy? No. They may be actively reviewing or looking for information on alternatives to surgeries. My father-in-law just had a shoulder surgery that he's been putting off for 12 years. So we have to think about the consumer with a situation. May not have current intent, may not be aware of the offerings that are available to them. And this all comes down to that call to action, direct response model of marketing that we firmly believe in. Now factors, create an urgency with an event, make it a big deal. So what's a fully integrated approach? What's a fully integrated strategy? You don't need to wait. You don't need to wait for search to kick in. It's part of the strategy, but it's not the be-all, end-all. You don't have to worry about getting a shared lead. There's ways to avoid that. Take the full control of all the purchase process that's available from a consumer standpoint. And we even had a great speaker yesterday talk about not having to wait for seasonality. They created seasons within their offerings. So share these stories, talk about fully integrated approaches with your customer, and help them get their unfair share in their market. Market share comes from somebody else. You all know it in your industry. Every sales manager, we're always looking at what the audit looks like. Their industry is exactly the same. That's what a fully integrated marketing strategy looks like. I'm going to invite Jody up for the grand finale.